talk about the wide receivers because they don't have any. Truth of the matter is I think their offense is going to be a mess unless somehow Jay Gruden summons some late 90s magic and puts something together. On defense, though, he's really interested to see what happens with Eddie Vanderdoes, who was a 2017 third-round pick, or Nick Nelson, a fourth-round pick from last year. According to him, he thinks these guys are on the bubble. He, in particularly, liked Nelson. He thought he was a steal who fell due to injury, but he's looked bad. Eddie V has looked bad. Basically, Monty has nothing but cynicism and despair, which makes him a perfect Raiders fan. On the
I tried preparing him for this when we talked about Gruden getting that 10-year contract, and I believe I actually tried to tell him, like, listen, the Raiders are only trying to go 8-8 this year at best.
Oh yeah, no. If there is a perfect way to do a at best 500 record, they are all over it. On the Green Bay side of the ball, though, Brian, who always just has the best write-ups, talks about the wide receiver logjam. And wide receiver is interesting. You know, for so many years, it was all about Randall Cobb. It was all about Jordy Nelson. Obviously, Jordy has retired. But they still have a lot of guys trying to make spots. Obviously, you have Devontae Adams, who is excellent. He says your other locks are Scantling, St. Brown, and Kumaro. But that leaves 2 or 3 spots. So you'll be watching Trevor Davis, Alan Lazard, and Darius Shepard. Obviously, once you're that deep on the wide receiver depth chart, it's not just what you do on the field as a wideout. A lot of it has to do with what you can do on special teams. Last week, we talked a little bit about the offensive line, potentially if Brian Bulaga is sort of working his way out, especially with his injury history. This year, Brian wants to look at the left guard spot. I don't know how to pronounce his name, Elgton. That's too many consonants in a row. Jenkins pushed Lane Taylor out of his starting left guard spot. He says that he was subbing for him with the ones last week and looked good. So it's going to be a really question of snap counts with the ones this week in the quote unquote dress rehearsal week, which you alluded to before. On the defensive side of the ball, he's really interested in Rashawn Gary. I'm not sure, dear listener, how much you listen to our mock drafts and things like that. I kept sending Rashawn Gary to the Seahawks because I really liked him coming out of Michigan. Apparently, he's looked good in camp, but done very, very little on the field. So this is his chance to actually look like he could be a factor in real football, not just in practice. So keep an eye on Rashawn Gary. And yeah, that's pretty much it. He mentioned some inside linebackers, but I don't really care about that. So Rashawn Gary, offensive line, Packers, Green Bay's terrible. Moving on.
Yeah, Andy can only hang with us for about 40 minutes, and then I guess he had to disappear. But the fact that it took us this long to get to his game, which is still Thursday, the Jacksonville Jaguars, Miami Dolphins, 8 p.m. kickoff on Fox at the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. From Jaguars.com, because I don't know where Ryan has disappeared to. These are the questions as Jaguars that you need to be asking yourself. Who's in and for how long? How many Jaguar players will be making their 2019 preseason debut? Because you're looking at guys like Calais Campbell, Nick Foles, Leonard Fournette, Jalen Ramsey, Yannick Ngakoue, AJ Boye, Avery Jones, Dede Westbrook, Miles Jack, and still more who have yet to see time on the field. This is, Doug Marrone making sure that none of his guys are going to get injured. So Nick Foles, if we do see him, what's he going to look like? Has he really improved this offense for the Jacksonville Jaguars? A lot of talk out of camp is
real quick, Pod.
Yeah,
Nick Foles not going to play this preseason.
Well, then there you go. So we won't see it. Moving on.
Rumor has it he's not going to play very well in the regular season either.
The talk out of camp is that Foles is developing good chemistry with Dede Westbrook, Chris Conley, and DJ Chark in practice, but that's in practice, so we're not going to see it in a game. That's too bad. The health of the offensive line, like I said, offensive line common for every single team, and the play of that line, Leonard Fournette. How will he be able to can he move past a disappointing second season? And the pass rush, looking to see how that develops with Josh Allen and Yannick Ngakoue on the outside and Calais Campbell and Marcel Darius on the inside. Darius has been out of practice in recent days with an elbow issue. If Nick Foles isn't playing, I doubt we're going to see Marcel Darius playing. So don't have to worry about that. And penalties. Doug Marrone has made it clear he wants the Jaguars to be a smart team. They've had double-digit penalties in each of the first 2 preseason games. That's not smart. By the way, that's not just Doug Marrone. That's pretty much a lot of different coaches. And I know Mr. Tom Coughlin is very much a stickler about his teams being heavily penalized. There we go. From Fansided Fin Fanatic, it seems like the Belichick disciple Brian Flores trying to do Belichickian type things with the Dolphins and just sort of focus on the fundamentals, getting back to tackling and being in the right position and all those sorts of things while learning a new system. Kalen Ballage is looking more than capable of taking the lead running back. The injury to Kenyon Jake makes that more likely. At wide receiver, there's been the emergence of Preston Williams, but overall the receivers are running much better routes than they have over the last 6 or more seasons. Just to take a quick pause and revisit the whole Jay-Z thing, Kenny Stills apparently very outspoken on the Jay-Z partnership, and Brian Flores, oh boy, as a rookie head coach who's trying to emulate, the guy before him, decided to start practice with 8 straight Jay-Z songs. James, how do you think Kenny Stills took to that? Do you think it really lit a fire under him, or do you think it's going to completely backfire on Flores?
Both. I honestly think both. It's pretty much going to anger him to some way in which he'll most likely channel that into his play. And he probably has no love for his head coach right now. The owner of the Dolphins recently stepped down from a community service project called Rise that he was on the board of, I think earlier this week, if not the end of last week, because Kenny Stills brought about the basically the hypocrisy of him being on such a thing, but yet still supporting the president. So basically saying the two things can't coexist. You can't fund these social justice initiatives and still support the hate speech coming out of the president's mouth. So he can't do anything about the owner of the team, but he can pretty much make life a living hell for his head coach. So more to come. Trust me on this one.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm in by no regard in favor of Trump, but if this guy's going to try to do something positive for the community, I don't see why we have to bring his other involvement with Trump. Like, just let him do it. Who the hell cares? Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, if the face of two different bases.
But I hate the Giants so much, but like if I were to do community service in the Meadowlands, like that would be going to my roots, but like I should still be praised for it because I'm not doing a good deed, you know?
Not the same thing, Kevin. It's pretty much it's not. I mean, you can do community service anywhere. It doesn't fly in the face of someone else, as far as doing community service, no matter where you do it. The thing is that these initiatives under the RISE program pretty much are geared to combat a lot of what this current administration is pushing. So that's where the hypocrisy lies. You can't fund both things. I mean, you can fund both things, but I mean, you look like the total hypocrite you are by doing it.
Yeah, but if he's going to fund something else, you might as well take the money. Money rules all. If someone hates me and they want to give me money, I'll take it. I don't care where it's coming from. I don't think
I have a problem, and I don't think Kenny Stills has a problem with him funding it. He had a leadership position on the board. And so being in a leadership position of a social injustice program and funding and being outspoken for President Trump at the same time definitely seems to be some sort of conflict of interest there on both sides. To me, it actually says a lot more about the owner, Stephen Ross, in a negative light that he stepped down than anything else, because what I would have done if I were in the same position is I would have taken a bigger stance for what is right instead of saying, "Oh, I can put my money wherever I want to. I can support whomever I want to."
That was never going to be,
and that's sort of the message that comes out. And it's sort of similar. That's why I sort of understand, even though I didn't at first, the backlash against Jay-Z and the partnership with the NFL. I actually at first thought it was a great step forward. I thought, oh, look at the NFL is actually trying to do something. But now after doing my research, I listened to a bunch of other podcasts. I listened to Sean King and his podcast. I understand the position that a lot of African Americans are having right now with this whole thing about it just sort of being a cover up, a sort of like I'm going to put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound and it's going to do nothing. And the blood is still spilling out. To me, it does seem disingenuous to try and do both things at the same time. And, it's disappointing that Stephen Ross decided to take the one avenue I wouldn't have taken.
Yeah, but the liberal mob would have forced him down anyway, even if he took a firmer stance on it. So it wasn't going to happen anyway. The liberal mob is the deadliest terrorist organization in the world.
Gosh.
On defense, need to see a little bit more quarterback pressure. But, I mean, let's face it, the Dolphins aren't going to be pressuring anyone. They're out of it. They are going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, competing for the first pick in the NFL draft. We finally made it to Friday. Justin, you're back. I hope you're still here with the Cleveland Browns, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 7:30 p.m. kickoff, NFL Network, Raymond James Stadium.
Not here.
No, Justin's not here.
I am here. Give me 2 seconds to read the notes, jerk.
2 seconds. You have the notes for 2 days.
You should have read the notes before we jumped on air.
Yeah, I have all the notes in. Oh my God. You know what? I have all these notes in front of me. I've gone over all of them. I need to organize my thoughts. I haven't written a script. Jeez.
You haven't even had start with coffee yet, probably.
Don't make me come over there, New York boy. All right, we're going to start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Matt did this right up for us. His notes are pretty much exactly what we're asking about is, who's going to play, who's going to be with the starters, what's everybody going to look like. He's curious about Kappa playing right guard. Says so far he has played well, wants to see if that continues into week 3. Obviously, he's going to be facing a lot of starters. He also wants to see Darren Hudson get some time with the starters. Jones and Evans have not been particularly healthy. I don't know why you would play Mike Evans.
Playing. Mike Evans has not been cleared to play.
Exactly. I don't know why you would even consider. I mean, it's not like, Mike Evans has got a lot to prove. He catches 1,000 yards every year, has his entire career. If he wants to, just sip tea until week 1, fine, do it. Obviously, on defense, he wants to. Hey, there are worse things wide receivers could be doing right now. Can the young secondary hold off Mayfield and OBJ? And I'll extend that to Jarvis Landry because I still think he's a good player. Tampa Bay's obviously been rebuilding their entire secondary with a lot of young players. I'll be curious to see how they stand up to them as well. They have questions at kicker, which is hilarious because, they took a kicker with second round like 2 years ago, and they still haven't been able to figure that out.
He's out of the league.
Right? Oh, man. I remember I got in just knockout, drag-out fights with Jared, our Giants fan, because he thought that was a great pick. But as with most of his takes, that was a terrible pick.
By the way, I just want to say, you brought up Jarvis Landry being a great player. I think in fantasy, he's the guy that's going to benefit the most from OBJ. Teams are going to be scheming for OBJ, and he's going to get his. But Jarvis Landry is going to be the guy that's going to be forgotten about and wide open in the crossing routes under the middle. I think Mayfield and Jarvis Landry are going to be much bigger in fantasy than Mayfield and OBJ.
I don't know about bigger, but I think relative to where you can draft them, Jarvis Landry is a great pickup.
I just did an auction draft, actually, this morning while I was at work. Don't tell the Secretary General, but I got Jarvis Landry for $12. And OBJ went for 50 plus. So, yeah, the difference is quite extreme. That's all I have to say about that.
No, that's good. It's a good pro tip. Let's flip it over to the Browns side. These notes from